All right, so it's recording now. So, how you doing there, Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange. I'm not quite a doctor yet, but people have referred to me as the doctor before because
Oh yeah, I
I
don't
do
know why.
have I do have some knowledge in pharmaceuticals, not a lot, and I have been known to revive people from near-death situations. But the name is actually J.D. Strange, James Jennison Strange is
Oh,
my
okay,
given name.
yeah, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I've seen your latest book. I've got a copy of it. Yeah, thanks for sending me one when I couldn't download it. But the circus, yeah. I'm Vanya Vito. Yeah, Vanya Vito. I write a lot of stuff set in Asia, and haven't been, invited back. So I must be doing something, right?
Yeah, we write some similar subject matters, I think, some similar themes
Yeah,
in the past, Vanya. So it's lovely to finally meet you in person, or as in
pretty
person
much.
I
Yeah, I think
prefer
so. I
can
mean,
be.
you authors are a funny bunch of people at the best of times, but I reached out and you were cool, so that's really appreciated. I'm here with my neighbour and lovely dear friend Rosie. Say hello, Rosie.
Hello.
Say hello, a bit louder.
Hello.
Where are you from, Rosie?
Hello.
Malaysia.
Yeah, Doctor Strange here. Now he says he revives people, Rosie. I'm wondering, if there's sexy, bar girls, down at the pong or soy cowboy, whether he does a bit of mouth to mouth. Oh, sorry, that's true, isn't it?
Well, I've been known to cause a few of those old broken hearts to start beating again. But
That's good, yeah.
as you and I both know, Vanya.
Oh, so what you're saying is, you had a spare 1,000 handy, yeah, that grey note. Now,
you're talking 1995 prices.
yeah. I mean, I haven't been back for a while. The last time I was in Thailand was in the deep south, covering some, terrorism, and I had a great time. There wasn't a white tourist around, but I didn't partake in any of the brothels, right, Rosie? Because I wanted to survive.
Pleased to hear it.
Yeah. But I mean, I was introduced to your work. Really interesting covers that there always are. I think one's called Flamingo. Is that right?
The White Flamingo.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about yourself, anyway. How you got into writing and how you got into this genre. Oh, isn't that a pretty profound question? Well, how did I come up with
that? I mean, that's a great question. Can I just say that's a wonderful question? And people don't often ask J.D. Strange this question.
Yeah.
But I came to, I was writing at school, obviously. I grew up in a very strange, bizarre environment in the circus, obviously. And
really?
Eventually wound my way to Asia in 2001, which was
is this your fictional autobiography, or is this the real one?
Well, I will let the listeners decide. I mean, the two personas breathe together now.
Not that I was saying that
James.
Not that I was saying or implying a fictional character, but I don't know, just on off chance I might.
Yeah, it's all a metaphysical history. But yeah, I mean, to get back to writing in Asia, writing in Bangkok, I came here in 2001. I've been writing a lot in UK. Wasn't published until I guess 2006, 2007, something like that. I started writing little short stories, pulp fiction stories that got published in science fiction magazines around the world. And then I discovered, I'd seen around, the Bangkok detective kind of bar girl, sleazy kind of genre, dick lit kind of fiction, which I kind of liked. And I met a lot of the people who were writing that kind of fiction in the region. And I found them an interesting bunch to talk to.
Sorry, short. Like who?
Well, obviously Dean, Barrett, Christopher Moore, John Burdett, and I organised, I guess when I really got probably known a bit wider was when I organised a literary event, the Bangkok night of fiction, Night of Noir, it was called, in I guess 2012, 2013, something like that. And by that time, my third book, or my second book, had been published, my second novel in the Joe Dillon series.
Wow.
And it was like there was a golden age of this
When
kind
was
of
the first
fiction.
one published?
I felt.
Sorry to cut you short. I'm really good at cutting people short. When was the first one published? So second one, 2013. What was
2007, I think, the first one.
What was the first one?
Bangkok Express.
Excellent. Yeah, just give our listeners a little bit of a little bit of context to your timeline, and then so from 7 till 13, it took you like 6 years to get the next book out, which was what was that?
Well, the Red Night Zone came out in 2009 or 2010, I think, and then the White Flamingo in 2013. But there were, because I was just starting out and I was quite young, there were lots of revisions. I had to rewrite a lot of stuff, and I hadn't really found my voice until the second or third book, I think. The strange voice had yet to develop, but I just found this is all pre-Me Too movement, of course, Vanya, you have to remember, when, there was this muscular male kind of based literature similar to the 1950s or the 1930s, Dashiell Hammett, kind of Raymond Chandler style. And I thought it'd be interesting to take that style of fiction, that style of narrative, and transplant it into Southeast Asia.
Yeah, well, I actually am a big fan of a guy called Stephen Palmer, and his 5 daughters. I've read his books. He's based in Cambodia. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Palmer?
Oh yeah, I know Steve well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen photos of you two inebriated in some sort of festival in Kompot, I think.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been the Writers' Festival in whenever it was.
Yeah, it sounds like you
back in the day. But
look like you were both, or look like you were wasted. So there you go.
Well, it's amazing what they can do. Amazing what they can do with camera trickery and Photoshop nowadays.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you snort a bit of amitriptyline.
Photoshop. That's right. This is my first ever interview of authors, so thanks for being so kind and sparing on me. So you met these authors, and they saw a bit of potential. I saw a wonderful forward in your latest book, Circus, by Christopher G. Moore, and that shows you something. You got one of the old hands who I suppose sort of followed the tradition on from Jack Reynolds, A Woman in Bangkok. Actually, I think if my memory serves me right, he was at his bed in hospital when he passed away.
Possibly, yeah. Christopher is a very kind, very generous, very intelligent man who's been a good friend over the years, and also a prolific writer. Over 30 books.
Yeah.
He really is a full-time writer. He does it every day. Whereas me, I just kind of skit around a bit, and I do a bit of film stuff. I do some podcasting. I do a little bit of music here and there, and just I'm not that dedicated to writing fiction. Well, I haven't been, apart from this year. This year I did quite well. I wrote 3 books in 2020. Wow. So the plague year was quite good for me. Apparently Shakespeare wrote all his best stuff during the plague, but I'm not comparing myself to Shaky.
I've had a great year as well. A lot of litigation. It's like trouble's my middle name. It's like I'm one of these people that just love to complain. So I've got a clinic that I've been blacklisted. 7 Indians, blacklisted. It's like, that's not on. What did I do to deserve that? I'm a good customer. I was only trying to score some Duramine. So, it's been a lot of sort of side shows, circus shows, and interesting. Yeah, that'll go in my Duramine diaries. But what are the 3 books you've written this year?
Well, the circus. The life is a circus, basically. If you can't juggle 4 or 5 batons whilst riding the unicycle, and in the ring, you know, then it's time to get out the fucking circus. You know, you have to do a lot. You have to be busy. You have to do a lot. So I wrote the circus, which was extracted from a childhood memoir, and made more palatable. Which, you know, it's a pretty disgusting book, but it's, you know, and it's good. It's, you know, I like it. I was quite happy with that. Then I wrote a pirate yarn called Port of Thieves, which is out now as well. That's about a guy, a young street boy from London in 1701 who is caught up in a heist in Lime Street in the city of London, and he ended up stealing a map, Captain Kidd's treasure map, and he jumps on a merchant vessel, on a Canadian fur traders vessel, which then gets commandeered by pirates, and he becomes a pirate, sails around the world, and ends up in the Port of Thieves, which is Port Royal in Jamaica, which was the most vile, horriblest, disgusting place in Earth at that time. You know, so I had a lot of research already with Bangkok. You know, transplanted.
Yeah, so you're a bit of a rat. You love exploring the gutters. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first stab at historical fiction, but I had done some of the research before. I've always been interested in kind of 18th century history, so I could kind of wing it. I hope. I don't know. I might have got it terribly wrong, but I guess
that's branching out. And sort of getting, you know, what's the third book this year you've written?
The third book was something called The Virus, which was a complete blatant grab for money, you know, during the current epidemic. And it's what it is. It's a Faustian bargain. Do you know what a Faustian deal is? The old German story about Faust, however you pronounce it, who sells his soul to have the ability to win a heart of a woman he meets. And this all happens in Fun City. A guy arrives in Fun City looking for his lost father. He's never met his father, and he discovers his father, who owns a fun house on the pier of Fun City, and who also shows him the secret to make a pact with the devil to win the love of the woman that he desires. So that's a nice cautionary tale as well, which will be out, I think, next month. So they're the free play books: Circus, Port of Thieves, and The Virus.
Wow. I mean, how many words are each book about?
Well, I cheat a little. They're quite small. About 25,000. So they're like novellas.
Oh, really?
Novellas.
Good.
Yeah.
On my Duramine attention span, you know, it should be perfect for me. But you're definitely going to have to send me the links, and I'll share them when we upload this first exclusive interview.
They have pictures as well, Banya. So
nice.
I print the book. I print the books locally in limited editions, and they have illustrations by my excellent Polish artist in obviously in Poland. But they're little kind of memorabilia picture books to celebrate the plague year.
Yeah. Now let's get back to your earlier books. I mean, I have read them. I've dabbled in them, and the way I sort of see it, you know, one of the books, I'm not sure which one, you know, you set it up where you're in a pool bar and there's these hot babes and shooting up pool, and one of the detectives is shooting up some drunk, and there's horrible mutilation that's going on. And then, you know, someone who's, you know, probably me, who's ducked out to the toilet with a whore and doing it in the toilet, you know, for $1,000 baht. So, you know, this is sort of the territory that I'm familiar with. And tell us a little bit about, you know, your Fun City books.
Well, that was the opening scene to The White Flamingo, and there was a dead body in the opening scene, and the dead body was on top of a pool table.
Yeah,
I was working with a guy at the time, and he was in a pool team. So every Monday he would come home and tell me about his pool game. So I had the pool table was just cemented in my cranium. I just had a pool table. What interesting thing can I do with a pool table? So obviously I put a dead body on it, And then
Mm.
it so happened that Amazon had delivered a book to me by mistake. And the title of that book was Jack the Ripper, Black Magic Rituals. And it was a story, a non-fiction account, sorry, a theory by a guy called Ivor Edwards, who had gone around London, Whitechapel, with basically a tape measure, you know, a long measuring rod, stick, whatever it is, a wheel they use. And he worked out each location, he pinned it on a map, and he worked out that if the lines where each event happened were connected, it created this satanic symbol called the Visis Piercis, I think it was called, the fish symbol. And this fascinated me, and I thought, how about if we have a modern day Jack the Ripper copycat killer in Pattaya or Fun City, as I then called it. So
basically,
so the body on the pool table.
Fun City's
is the first big
on Pattaya, is it? Yeah.
It's a mixture of Pattaya and Bangkok.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a very, very decadent place. It's like, have you ever seen the cartoon animation Walt Disney version of Pinocchio? You know, when Pinocchio leaves the carpenter's house and he goes to this island called Pleasure Island, where the boys run. They get to ride on fairground rides all day for free, and they can play pool and they can drink beer and they can do whatever they like. But after a time, they become like braying donkeys. You know, all this freedom and excitement becomes a bad thing for them. And I thought, how about Fun City is like this? You can go there, you can have a good time, but the price can be enormous. It can be fantastic. And that is why you see these people leaping out of windows and jumping off of balconies, because they are consumed by desire.
Aren't they supposed to?
This interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the way I deal with it is I catch the next plane back home and go through cold turkey and have a big smile and say, yeah, done that. And I'm sort of glad I've done it, you know, a lot of times, because you can't do it now. You know, we're all landlocked. You know.
It was interesting to go back there. I went down to Pattaya a few months ago, and it was, you know, it was sad. It was really depressing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you're in a very privileged position at the moment to, you know, to see a different kind of Bangkok, you know, in Thailand. What's your take on it all at the moment? I mean, in terms of you know, the sex industry and inspiration for writers or lack of it, you know, how's it all? Is, you know, Fun City maybe becoming boring city?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a correction has happened, and I don't think there possibly should be places in the world as decadent as Fun City or as Pattaya. I think it's probably not a good thing for society in general. Right. You know, there's three states of being in the world, Dania. There's chaos, and there's order, and there's potential, right? And Pattaya is just complete chaos. It's complete chaos, which is fun, as you say. If you parachute in, you enjoy it, you get the fuck out. But think of the people who live there day in and day out. You know, it must get really, and not just the sex workers, also the sex consumers, the people who are, fueling this industry. So I think there has been a correction this year where, you know, a lot of these businesses are going out of, you know, they're having to close down and do other things.
I think it's no choice, really. I think it's not happy. I think I'd be happy to have a fistful of cash. I don't know. I might be wrong there. I mean, what's interesting is, you know, there's a paradigm change going on, and if this is what you're feeling, it's almost, well, what's the purpose of us white people anymore? You know, going to the kingdom. Go see temples and do some Vipassana meditation, or maybe do a bit of Muay Thai. I don't know. Who's into that shit?
Well, no, I mean, 20 years ago, if I had the opportunity in 2017 to make a short film with a reasonably large budget, and had I had that opportunity, 15 years before, I wouldn't have been able to find the actors, the models, who I cast. I wouldn't have been able to find possibly the director. You know, so there's a lot of people with a range of talents now living in Bangkok, especially. Before it really was just backpackers and sex tourists, you know. But now we have, you know, these tech gurus. We have vloggers and writers, and you know, there's a lot more talent in the city now, and a lot. It's a lot more diverse than it was, for better or worse.
Yeah. Oh wow!
And don't get me wrong, I love the old seedy parts of town. You know,
thank you for saying that.
I went when you know, the tunnel was knocked down and the old Check-in 99 went, and these places were razed to the ground. You know, I was heartbroken because it's just such good material for, you know, for a novelist or a filmmaker. But you know, it's hopeless to try and, you know, to try and stop it. So it's much more positive to look forward to the new Bangkok and the new Asia.
I'm sure a lot of it went underground or whatever, and you know, as we all know, you know, the sex industry was always geared towards the locals anyway. You know, the sort of the expat side of it, Malaysians to, you know, Singaporeans to white and Europeans and Arabs, that all came a bit later.
Well, I had a cynical thought about that as well, Daniel, when all the bars closed down. I did wonder, what will all these sex workers do? And what they probably did, I don't know, but I imagined in a cynical moment that they probably went back to the local villages and continued their trade with the headmen of the local villages, and, like, you know, certain members of the business community and politicians and what have you. So they probably diversified in that way, and then came back when things opened up.
Yeah, well, it's interesting days. I mean, you know, I remember back in the day, I visited a temple where there were people dying of AIDS. You know, did a bit of volunteer work, and you know, saw people die within that week, and it was traumatic. And then you got things like dengue, which I think we died from, malaria as well, all the stuff that you might encounter in a circus. I think you've only got 50 people who have died of COVID, you know, since the outbreak, and yet they've closed down the whole country. I mean, it seems a little bit absurd. There's, you know, there's room for conspiracy theories, and I understand you interviewed David Icke not long ago, so.
Yeah, we spoke to David. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's on the far end of conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I saw that interview, and I've got to watch it. But he's how did you get access to him?
We just contacted him on Twitter, I think.
Yeah. Not trying to undermine the importance of yourself, but that was a coup. I mean, I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and I think even he got sort of confused later on with COVID. He got stumped on what it was all about. And initially, he was doing some great stuff.
But I do wonder if there's like these two big powers, you know, if you were to like draw a line down the middle, and there's one is like big business corporations, global corporations calling the shots on political decisions, and then you have governments who are, you know, being told what to do to a certain extent, and then politicians thought, hang on, actually we can dictate things a little bit here. You know, but of course the big businesses all have like business interruption insurance policies and stuff, so they don't really suffer. But it's always the case. It's the medium-sized and small businesses that go broke and suffer. So it's still going to be those two big elite powers controlling the world. And I think David Icke is right there, you know, but his theories just go too far.
Well, what I think it is, like, you know, drugs have just cleaned up on the streets. There's no more crackheads, meth heads. And I think the Chinese were, you know, doing a bit of payback after the Opium Wars, and, you know, they've been involved with the Burmese, the Wa state, the Shan state, whatever. And, you know, maybe it was a way for, you know, the Western countries to pretty much put a stop to the methamphetamine trade, because you can't just kill them like you do in the Philippines, you know, under President Duterte there, because that'd be considered, you know, not very nice. And basically you close all the borders down. You control who's coming in the country, so you stop the drug trade. So I mean, all the crackheads have gone to alcohol now. You don't see ranting lunatics on the street. Crime's down. So who knows? It could be a way to sort of cut China's.
I don't think they care that much. I mean, and also, I if someone has access to methamphetamine, they can be extremely good workers. I mean, you want people in your factories taking meth. You want people on the fishing trawlers taking meth. You want your taxi drivers and your lorry drivers taking methamphetamine, especially if you're bringing it in yourself through your armed forces, which is the case in many of the
Yes, well said. Yeah, well, I've spent a little bit of time in the borders, and this is the way I see it firsthand. You've got the Burmese, the baddies, right? Then you've got the ethnic fighters, we'll say the Korean Liberation Army, the Korean Buddhist Liberation Army, the Shan State Army, and they're the suppliers, but they're also the buffers of the border. So basically, they bring the drugs over, and then you've got the generals, on the Thai side, who say, thank you very much, continue doing what you're doing on the border, we'll let you. And they get access to cheap drugs, and then it's circulated within the economy, and that's how we shouldn't really speak too much about this, Dr. Strange, since you are in the country, but that's how it works.
Yeah, it's. I think it's interesting how also I think if you're gonna be careful about legalizing any drug, I think you have to be careful about legalizing marijuana and ganja, because it really does make people think outside of the box. I mean, I can't smoke it myself. I get paranoid. But
yeah, me too.
I know when I was
I don't go anywhere near.
I don't like it, but I mean, maybe it's trying to tell me something.
Well done.
Maybe it's trying to tell me, strange, get out of your shitty life.
You're one of the
but look at America.
Who doesn't?
Look at the US right now. Look at the
Rose
USA.
making me a coffee. I hope you can hear okay. We'll definitely do a follow-up. This is a fascinating conversation, by the way. I'm not a bad interviewer, am I? I'm not too bad, considering it's my first time.
You're doing great. You're doing really well. And this is coming from someone who has done a few interviews before. So I'm talking too much. I don't normally talk about myself.
Oh, no, it's great. It's fascinating. I think we'll definitely have to do a follow-up for sure. I mean, I intend to, get a few people on the show, and you just learn. I've got a good friend called Ronnie Shaw, and he used to interview a lot of authors. He just passed away not long ago. He had problems with weight. He put on 50 kilos, lose 50. After people said, you're too skinny, he put it back on, and he was taking it off for his health, and eventually it killed him, because the heart couldn't take, the weight on and off. So he didn't
like the change.
So a big shout out to
Ronnie
Shaw.
Like the change. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a wonderful writer too, and very sad to see him go. He used to be a copper in Atlanta, and he had me on his show towards the end. No one's ever interviewed me, and so it's nice to have tribute to him and keep the torch sort of burning.
For sure, dude. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Ronnie Shaw. Yeah.
Ronnie Shaw.
So,
he wrote fiction, did he?
Yeah, he wrote a lot of autobiographical stuff, like Ron Shaw. One book's called Red. It's fantastic. It's sort of semi-pornographic. It's the best porn I've ever read. Oh, God, it's good. And the guy who did the covers, Greg Polko, a wonderful graphic designer. He produced some great stuff, like on his childhood, living in basically, the wrong side of town, and how he made good and became a copper. Really honest writer, and I love his work. So,
whereabouts are you from, Daniel? You're in
yeah, I'm in
Australia
Perth.
somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in Perth. Yeah, I'm originally from the eastern states, but I've been over here, on and off for 10 years. It's closer to Asia. It's a 3-hour flight to Bali. So, if you're doing a lot of stuff like stories, I base myself here, make some money. I grunt and do a bit of roadie work or telemarketing, and then before I know it, I'm I could be anywhere in Asia covering the story, you know, getting down and dirty, and then, you know, come back to Australia and live a normal life, and then get back out there again. So that's how I find my books. It's sort of a bit different to being based in Bangkok, where you're always struggling for money. You know, you always got access to a lot of it when you're based in a Western country. So, interesting. Thanks for asking that question.
I like the way I like the way each of your books is based or themed around or named after a certain pharmaceutical. I have Tramadol Days of my
oh yeah, well
on my Kindle.
Yeah, well, Tramadol. I mean, it's well, I called it barley dreaming initially, and it got a mention in Jake Needham, a good friend of mine and a wonderful author based in Bangkok, and he mentioned it in one of his Tay books, so that was quite an honour. But basically, it's me getting fucked up, you know, slowly but surely, towards the end where I'm so paranoid I've got to get the fuck out of there, and that was my last sort of trip with the Balinese pimp. You know, we had a great relationship. Oh man, we went to every chicken farm, you know, from East Java to Bali to Sumbawa. But the good things must stop. You know, he had a wife, and you know, obviously, you know, doesn't want to spread AIDS or whatever. AIDS? What's AIDS, you may ask? Yeah, I mean, interesting. Some people get it, some never. I knew this conversation would get to this.
This is where you were going. Okay, all right. Well, I've got a good friend of mine. A good friend of mine was a professor who was working in Bangkok in the early days when it just broke out. You know, when it was on its first world tour, and obviously it was an issue back then. I mean, it did explode here. You know, people were being treated, hospitalized. You know, I'll tell you a story. J.D. Strange went for an AIDS test not long ago. I went for you have to get the work permit. You have to do these you know, tests for syphilis, and I thought, why don't I just get the whole lot done? You know, including HIV, everything.
Right.
And I remember going for lunch when I, you know, waiting for the results to come in, and you know, you ask yourself some serious questions like, well, how am I going to handle this? You know,
so what you're saying? What you're saying to the audience is you're a barebacker. Is that what you're saying to the audience?
No high risk activity whatsoever.
That sounds boring.
Nothing. No high risk. Married for years. You know, but you always, there's something in the back of your head. It's like, oh, maybe, you know, I sat on the wrong toilet seat or something. You know, all these fucking stupid conspiracy theories come up. But the thing was, I went into the clinic and there were a lot of guys.
You can get familiar.
It was particularly guys in there who they obviously had AIDS. You know, they were talking about their count and, you know, they had to get their count down before they took a fly and stuff like that. So there is, you know, obviously there is, you know, it is a problem here. But it's not, you know, it's kind of like COVID, I guess. It's not like a huge pandemic that maybe we thought it would be once it was controlled to a certain degree, and people take precautions. I mean, then it was condoms, now it's masks. You know, I had a nightmare last night. I woke up sweating that I was in a supermarket without wearing a mask. You know, I wear a mask everywhere now because of this COVID thing. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, who's profiteering from this? You know, the latex manufacturers and the cotton mask makers. They're the people who are winning in this
what's interesting
scenario.
Yeah, what's interesting is the you know, the way China handled, which I thought was pretty good actually, considering, you know, the seriousness of the situation. And while we were just looking on and laughing, making commentary about how draconian they were, and we eventually became worse than them. All our rights have been taken away. All of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting social kind of experiment in a way to see how easy it is to control large populations in that way through fear, basically.
Yeah, sheep.
Yeah.
Sheep mentality.
We're sheep. We're sheep. We're herds. But we're sheep, but we're also carnivores. So there will be certain characters who walk away from the flock, and these are ones who will succeed in life generally.
Yeah, well, I mean, who do you know that's died of COVID? You asked that question, no one knows. So, sort of. But what did David Icke say on the show anyway about it? On your show?
Yeah, I mean, he thinks it's just a way to control populations, and he has various theories.
Coffee. Yeah, please. Yeah, I'm just asking Coffee and Rose.
Yeah.
She's getting bored with us, but she's had a great night. I mean, I'm imposing myself on her because I said, listen, can I come over and do an interview with you, get away from the Africans I live with, and a bit nice and quiet. And it was working out really well. I'm just Zoom is great, and basically, I mean, what about wearing masks? I mean, won't that sort of interfere with facial recognition software?
Oh, that's an interesting point. Maybe it does. Yeah, and you can see all this stuff going on in the States now. They have a real situation. I've got a friend in Portland, and he was saying that towns are being burnt down to the ground. Basically razed to the ground.
Well, Portland of all places. I've been there, and I think that's where the Starbucks originated. It was kind of a bit of a cliquey place, anyway. I mean, give me San Francisco any day. The people were far more open and more opportunities, and just a great town. But Portland was great, but something not quite right about sort of a bit inbred mentality.
Yeah, there's two Portlands, isn't there? I think it's in
Washington State near Seattle. Are we talking about the same one?
Right. Yeah. I forget the state. No.
What?
I forget the state.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. It's like the trendy kind of. A lot of grass gets sold there, and this is what I was trying to talk about earlier. That if you're going to control any drug, you probably want to control marijuana because it makes people think outside of the box, and it makes people decide not to conform to society in 9 to 5 environment and to do something different. That's what we saw in the 1960s with the social revolution, civil rights, all this kind of stuff. That's what we're seeing now. And I think a lot of it has to do, I think you should legalize everything, but you have to be careful if you have a social apparatus where you want people to work, be happy, buy a car, keep buying the soap and keep going to work, and then you give them marijuana, you're going to have a problem. If you want to maintain that society. Booze, alcohol is perfect for that. That's why agricultural societies were built on alcohol.
Right.
You don't see outside of your limited experience of alcohol. You enjoy yourself. You kind of dulled kind of enjoyment. Then you wake up, you go to work all week, and then you get drunk again. But there's something about marijuana, I think, that kind of makes, and LSD as well. Any of the hallucinogens make people look outside the box and strive for something a bit better.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, we could talk a lot about, mind-controlling substances, and for some reason, I mean, I don't look for drugs; they tend to look for me. So, it's like I wasn't even looking for it,
No, I don't look for drugs. I dislike drugs. Particularly living in Thailand, you'd have to be stupid to search anything, that's illegal. But I do remember back in the day, Vanya, when the pharmacies in Bangkok were open 24 hours, and there would be a beer fridge rumbling in the corner.
Not anymore?
They used to sell.
Not anymore?
They used to sell beer in the pharmacies, and you used to be able to buy
Nagra.
You used to be able to buy
Xanax,
Valium straight over the counter.
What about the pink and whites?
The
pink and white speed pills. Oh, diet pills. I mean, I had to take them 10 in a night.
Good diet tablet.
I mean, they were the good old days, when methamphetamines was legal. At least you knew what you were taking. But those good old days will come back shortly.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is a lot of people focus on Thailand. I mean, I've spent a fair bit of time in Indonesia. It's a pretty wild place. Indonesia is just wild, outlawish.
I've never been.
Yeah, I mean,
I've never been further south than Singapore.
Yeah, well, you want to just go another 20 kilometers south to Batam. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's a Muslim country, and you got to remember there's Christians, there's Buddhists and Muslims who are Buddhists, and but it's a pretty wild sort of country. You can come unhinged pretty fast.
Decadent, dark.
Oh
dark.
yeah. Well, thank God. Thank God for that. Malaysia's just doomed. It's like the Mujahideen's, impose their Sharia law, and but yet it's okay for them to go up to the border and have a dirty weekend. And what do the women do? Wear their hijabs and get fat on your Indian curry.
Doesn't sound too bad to me. Doesn't sound too bad at all.
The
curry part, that is.
I thought you might have been in fat heifers, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
And the getting fat part.
Yeah, I love the Indian food in Malaysia. But yeah, I'm really keen to explore your novels, particularly these three. It's only 25,000 words, each. I mean, I should really apply myself, and give it a go.
Well, I'll send some to you. I'll post some of the picture books to you.
Yeah, do you have my email?
Give me your address.
Yeah.
No, but I got you on social media, I think.
Yeah, I'll give you my email.
Facebook,
I mean, you're officially in the club now, man. You know who I am. So, that's it means a lot, to me to give it to you. It's terrible being a faker, on different accounts, but these days, a lot of people are being put in jail for their opinions on Facebook using their real name. In Australia, in Thailand, Lacey Majestic, etc. And it's a scary place. We be tracked down, located. Someone doesn't like what you're saying or writing. So I think, particularly with data mining and so on, go for fake names. So when are we going to see a Dr. Strange Facebook account?
Well, there is one. There's a JD Strange website. Yeah. There's a JD Strange blog. There's a JD Strange Facebook account, and there's a JD Strange Twitter. All angles are covered by the strangeness. So he's everywhere, and he's slowly taking over the internet. Slowly but surely.
Now, all right, we're sort of going to wind this up a little bit because poor Rosie needs to sleep. But definitely would love to have you on again. But I mean, obviously your influences, your early ones, Raymond Chandler. Who else, besides the locals in Bangkok, do you consider influences in your style?
Another good question. I must congratulate you on your interviewing technique there, Thanya.
Well, actually, I'm very literary. I'm very literary, believe it or not. But playing up this dumb persona is hard work. It's hard to get back into it.
I have the same problem. If you crack behind this ignorant facade, there's actually a literary person hiding in the shadows. William Burroughs, The Beat Generation.
Yeah. Jack Kerouac.
Kerouac, Ginsey,
Moriarty.
Gregory Corso. And I also like, I quite like cartoonists like Hergé. I really like the Tintin franchise. Great storyteller, great use great use of a reader's time.
Interesting you talk about that. I'm a big fan of Christopher J. Koch, Australian author from Hobart, Tasmania, and probably one of the best authors, in the world, particularly on books set in Asia. Year of Living Dangerously, the something voice, right. I can't remember, The Double Man, Quiet Voices, I think. But he writes about, influences of cartoons on cinema, like the cartoons from the 30s, and how the style influenced, the black and white sort of movies, and and also the adventures too. Sort of it spurred on, adventures for little boys like ourselves who eventually, aspired to go out and sort of, Find a Highway to War. Yeah, that's another one of his books, Highways to War.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing about, cartoonists appealed to the illiterate classes. You didn't have to be able to read to understand a cartoon. You could buy a newspaper just to read the cartoons if you were illiterate.
Yeah.
So they're very powerful in that way. They're like movies are. Movies are very powerful because they have such a wide range of audience, particularly silent movies. So yeah, I mean, I like the beat stuff. I like the early Pulp Fiction stuff, crime fiction, through the ages. I really dig. And a little bit of modern stuff. I mean, who was the French author who did Platform, which I think is the best novel set in Thailand? Mikhail Hulenbeck. That was a fantastic book set here.
Interesting.
You would love it. You would love it. Really, really fantastic. Funny, dry.
What's his name again?
It's extremely difficult to pronounce. Hollebeequue. Hulenbeck.
Yeah.
And his first name is Michael or Michael, depending on how you pronounce it. But yeah, I mean, his one book set here called Platform was probably one of the most enjoyable books I've read set in the kingdom.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy getting back to Ian Donnelly. I think and he's the author of Steve Palmer. I think that's not a state secret, but I've enjoyed both his books I've read, and he's quite an accomplished writer, that guy. Particularly the last one he wrote, very dark one, and you got this narrator, and who is it? Is it a man or a woman? That's the question. And he addressed some really big issues, Cambodia, that he always does anyway. So it's good to see him pushing the literary limits there, Cambodia.
Ooh, editor on the circus as well. Steve.
What's that?
I had two editors. He was the editor on the circus, or one of the editors on the circus book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's what he does. He's an editor in Phnom Penh, but also a writer. He does some really good journalistic type stuff, blogs, and his fiction. The Tears, isn't it? Kaima. Is it Kaima Tears? I forget he's going to kill me if he listens to this. I forget the title.
He wrote a wonderful review on one of my books. It's like, man, he writes good reviews when he writes them. Oh.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Really nice guy as well. Good fun. Scottish, sort of the earth type geezer. Whenever I'm in Cambodia, we meet up and have several beers. So,
Well, I've read his earlier stuff, set in Scotland. Hilarious, fucking hilarious. His earlier stuff.
The iron brew acid test.
Yeah. Oh, it's great stuff. I was just laughing the whole time. So.
I'm sure he would be happy to come on the podcast if you ask. He talks more than I do. More than I do.
Yeah, well,
he can talk more than I can, and yeah.
It's less work for me. It makes me look good. Yeah,
he probably talks more than Rosie as well.
Yeah, well, Rosie's pottering around, but she did give me permission, and I'm really glad I've done it in her house because she's a wonderful lady, and she's got 2 scales, and I weigh myself there, and we have a bit of a history. I've known her 2 years, and she's 81, but I call her a sweet 16, right, Rosie? Sweet 16?
Yeah.
She's pottering around. It means she's probably sleepy, or she's just catching the Duramine vibe off me. Oh, I've got to watch. I've got her watching techno music at the moment, and she just adores it.
Watching techno music.
Yeah, with cartoons, 1930s cartoons.
Yeah.
Well, she's a bit of a telephone generation. No one's exposed her to the new technology, so by the time I'm done, she'll know everything about everything.
Excellent.
But she's got some stories, about Malaysia, what it was like in the 60s, you know, and you know, the Chinese were being attacked by the Malays, and what's going on, really going on. It's interesting history.
Fascinating. You're very lucky to have each other.
Oh, very lucky to have her. Very lucky that someone understands me. Yeah, she's wonderful. Busy lady though for 81, right, Rosie?
Yeah.
So we have little picnics from time to time. And so anyway, I'll tell you what, we'll probably should wind this one up, though I'd like to continue on. I think we'll probably have to do another one, if that's all right.
That's fine. We've done 58 minutes, and I was a bit nervous they would stop on 50, but they haven't. So we got an extra 8 minutes. So
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Hey,
but
thanks very much for coming to the inaugural show, and I might just post it all the way it is. Probably on YouTube. Would that be good?
Yeah, you can do that if you know the. We don't need to edit it, do we?
No,
probably not. I don't know. Maybe the story about me going to the AIDS clinic. Can I just clarify that I was negative when I went to the AIDS clinic?
Nice follow-up.
Because I could leave it as a cliffhanger, and you could find out my test result on the next episode. Should we do it that way?
I'm gonna have to do my homework. I'm just sort of reading a really fascinating book. It's not been released yet, but I'm going to be doing an interview with Mark Rogers. I think you're going to really like his stuff. I mean, one of his writers who's dead, he dedicated the book to me, and he actually met Allen Ginsberg, and his writing is kind of like that guy Tim Carroll, I think his name, who wrote the Basketball Diaries, but so much better.
Jim.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well done. And he's an unknown writer, but I've read all his books, and one was dedicated to me. So, we'll talk about that probably in the podcast, and it might sort of rekindle your love for that generation.
All things be, yeah, awesome. Okay, it's been a pleasure. It's been absolutely marvelous. I'll let you and Rosie get on and have a very pleasant evening or afternoon or whatever it is.
Particularly since we never spoke to each other ever. It's the first time, so yeah, it's been very good.
Okay, stay good, bro. Cheers,
You've
man.
been a wonderful host, or that's not the word. I'm the host. Been a wonderful author. And
guest.
We'll talk soon. Thanks for being kind and gentle.
Take care. Speak soon. Bye.